Hello, and welcome to the Biomass Magazine podcast. I'm your host, Anna Simet. I hope you're all doing well. This episode marks the second installment featuring a general session presenter for the International Biomass Conference and Expo in Atlanta, March 18th through the 20th. And we will be continuing this series over the coming weeks and months to find out their critical topics of discussion, what we should all know and be paying attention to. So today I have with me our second guest of the series, my friend Paul Winters, and he is Director of Public Affairs at Clean Fuels Alliance America. Paul, welcome to the podcast, and thanks for coming on today.
Well, thank you, Anna. I appreciate you having me and looking forward to the conference as well.
For sure. So, Paul, for those who may not know, could you explain a little bit about who Clean Fuels Alliance America is and who you represent and what your mission is?
Yeah, absolutely. So Clean Fuels Alliance is actually a more than 30-year-old trade association. We used to be known as the National Biodiesel Board. And for much of our history, we were a technical organization trying to prepare for the commercial development of biodiesel and work with biodiesel producers to improve the quality of their product to a point where it would be a drop-in fuel that directly displaces petroleum diesel. Over time, our members began to expand into renewable diesel and were among the first U.S. producers of sustainable aviation fuel. So in 2020, we changed our name to Clean Fuels Alliance America. We officially adopted a mission to represent biodiesel, renewable diesel, and sustainable aviation fuel. And our membership continues to expand now to customers of all of those fuels. So recently, most of the major rail operators in the United States have joined our membership. We have customers who are still expanding their use of biodiesel and renewable diesel for on-road transportation, such as Pepsi. And we continue to represent the entire value chain of renewable fuel production, from feedstock collectors and soybean growers all the way to those retail customers. And as sustainable aviation fuel has expanded and alcohol-to-jet technology is reaching the point of sort of a commercial demonstration, we've expanded our membership among those alcohol producers, ethanol producers. So we have Gevo and Green Plains as members as well.
Okay, thanks, Paul. I've heard before you've said the biomass-based diesel and SAF industry is pursuing a vision to reach 6 billion gallons of domestic production and use. Can you talk a little bit about that? Why 6 billion gallons and where are we at now?
Yeah, so that vision was adopted in 2020 when we decided to change our name. We could foresee the adoption and sort of the commercial maturation of renewable diesel technology. And at last year's conference, I said our industry was having its moment. During 2023, our industry U.S. production grew by 1 billion gallons, and that was all in the renewable diesel space. This year, we've continued to grow, not as rapidly, but still growing. Since the adoption of our vision for 6 billion gallons, production here in the United States has doubled. So it's gone from 2 billion gallons a year to 4 billion. And this year, we're anticipating that U.S. production is going to be close to 5 billion gallons. And we certainly know that the market, including the net imports, will hit that 5 billion gallon mark. So in terms of our vision of reaching 6 billion gallons of consistent production and market use by the end of this decade, we're getting very close to the finish line already. We need to maintain U.S. production, continue to expand renewable diesel and SAF production, and continue to build out markets and build out the infrastructure for that 6 billion gallon vision. Right now, though, the industry is trying to prepare for a major transition in in tax policy. And that is creating some unnecessary and unwanted uncertainty for U.S. producers. So the Inflation Reduction Act that Congress passed in 2022 set an expiration date for the long familiar biodiesel blender credit and established a new credit that would be available to all types of renewable fuels on a technology neutral basis. It would be tied directly to the carbon intensity scores for each individual fuel and feedstock combination, but it wouldn't simply apply to biodiesel and renewable diesel. It would apply to sustainable aviation, ethanol, natural gas, and a range of other available technologies. So the uncertainty at the moment, though, is caused by the delays in the U.S. Treasury finalizing rules for this new tax credit. So we're just about a month away from the expiration of the biodiesel blender credit and the supposed start of this new clean fuel production credit. And nobody actually knows the rules at this point.
Okay. Well explained, Paul. Thank you. So moving on to the conference, outside of what you just talked about in terms of, those programs, what are some of the main challenges that you'll be addressing? I know that you've said potential feedstock availability as production capacity continues to grow. That's one of them.
Yeah, and the challenge really is in balancing the expansion of production capacity and the availability of feedstocks. So our industry has always worked with the US soy industry and soy farmers, and our growth in production has always been tied very closely to the growth in production of soybean oil. The soy industry recognized the potential for renewable diesel and sustainable aviation fuel, and they have made major investments, more than $6 billion worth of investments in expanding soy processing here in the United States, partly in reaction to changing trade conditions, but it's also based on the opportunity to produce more fuel here in the United States, produce more soybeans here in the United States, and maintain the value of that crop and that production here in the United States. So there's been a little bit of a difference in the rates at which the soy processing has come online and the build out of renewable diesel capacity. So a lot of producers have gone to international markets and are importing feedstocks, particularly feedstocks that have low carbon intensity scores like used cooking oil and animal fats. The availability of not just those feedstocks, but of soy on the international market has sort of depressed the price for US soy producers. And that's kind of creating a little uncertainty for them and the investments they've made. So we are attempting to sort of balance that equation and maintain growth in both industries at the same time and coordinate that growth and provide value to everyone. The uncertainty in tax policy is also creating some uncertainty for US soy producers and kind of testing their faith in their investments. But there's still the opportunity for continued growth, and that's based on demand from new customers and additional markets here in the United States. There's interest from markets beyond just airlines, and the sustainable aviation fuel grand challenge. As I mentioned, there are a lot of railroads that are coming to us and looking for renewable fuel. They are facing pressure to decarbonize from their customers. And we're also seeing a lot of interest from shipping companies and maritime use of renewable fuels. So Asian countries like China, Canada, European countries have all implemented mandates for use of biodiesel or renewable diesel in shipping as a way to decarbonize that industry in the near term. The interest among shippers here in the United States is high, but there are some regulatory hurdles for them to adopt renewable fuels. So the US is not keeping pace with other international competitors in supplying renewable fuels to the shipping industry. And that's one of the challenges that Clean Fuels is trying to address.
Okay, thanks, Paul. So finally, you have talked a little bit about this already, policy. You've said by March, we'll probably have a clear picture of the balance of power in Washington, D.C. and resolutions to policy uncertainty. Any initial or final thoughts on that before we wrap things up?
The outcome of the recent election was favorable to Republicans. That we'll have a Republican president and majority in both the House and Senate of Republicans. Mm-hmm. Still very narrow majorities and razor thin vote margins in both bodies of Congress. So there's still a need for bipartisanship in policy and for bipartisan support. But at the same time, I think most people recognize that at least for the next 2 years, there will be a heavy Republican agenda and a rush among congressional Republicans to enact a number of policies, partly reversing the policies that were enacted in the 2021 and 2022 timeframe where Democrats held the White House and both the Senate and House majorities. So I mentioned the tax policy, the clean fuel production credit that we're all waiting for guidance on right now was enacted by the Democratic majority back in 2022. And we're getting a few mixed signals already from the incoming Republican majority as to what they intend to do about that policy. Certainly, there are Republicans who have always supported our industry and continue to want to continue the support in tax policy for our industry. There are others, though, who are looking to shift the available support and the available tax base to their own priorities. So it's going to be kind of an ongoing task for our industry to fight for the policy support, to emphasize that we're an essential part of the energy mix. Biodiesel and renewable diesel right now are meeting 9% of the demand for on-road heavy-duty fuel, diesel fuel here in the United States. Most of that is in California and Oregon, but 9% is a pretty significant part of the fuel pool. So we're going to emphasize the need for continued stability and predictability in those policies, and continue to emphasize that we're really an essential part of the energy mix, that a disruption in production of biodiesel and renewable diesel, a disruption of the growth path that we've set for ourselves through our vision would really put a significant hole in the U.S. energy supply.
Well said, Paul. Well, I think we'll wrap things up. I just want to thank you so much for coming onto the podcast and chatting with us. And I certainly look forward to your presentation at the IBCE.
Well, thanks, Anna. And I'm looking forward to the conference as well.
All right. And to our listeners, learn more about the International Biomass Conference and Expo taking place in Atlanta, Georgia, March 18th through the 20th at biomassconference.com. Producers get in free. Make sure to look into that to see if you qualify. So with that, we'll wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.